1, 2, 3, 4. I won't deny it, I'm a Southsider. You don't wanna mess with me. Got the police looking for me. But I'm calm cause I'm smoking that CBD. Said I won't deny it, I'm a Southsider. You don't wanna mess with me. Got the police looking for me. But I'm chilling in the back of the VIP. Said we won't deny it, we are Southsiders. You don't wanna mess with us. Got the police looking for us. But there's nothing that they can do when you're chilling with the Blessed Life podcast crew. What's up, what's good? Happy Sunday. I'm Brian Tierney. This is the Blessed Life University podcast, the BLU podcast for short. We're here hanging out today. We're going to be talking about the tragic derailment and detonation of train cars in East Palestine, Ohio, that contained vinyl chloride, which is a known carcinogen from my understanding. And we're also going to be talking about some of the, China balloons and other things that were found and shot down over the United States. Pew! Pew, pew. And we're going to finish with a fictional story that would be crazy if it were reality. So that'll be fun.
Entirely fictional, though. Totally fictional. You know, we're getting into fiction writing. For those of you that don't know, it's a surprise. This is entirely editorialized and from the mind of Brian Tierney. So,
oh my God, all
for
the
your
pressure's
entertainment.
on me.
Yeah, for your entertainment.
Matt Thomassen cannot overstate the fictional nature of this story. So, in any event, here with me to talk about all that today is the aforementioned Captain Matt Thomassen, captain in the U.S. Army and attorney at Thomassen and Tierney, attorneys at law. Matt, what's going on, brother? How are you?
Oh, it's a lovely Sunday. Can I say it's the Lord's Day? A great day for podcasting.
The Lord's Day.
It's the Lord's Day. It is an abnormally warm February here in the Midwest. Usually it's bleak, cold, below freezing, which it has been some days, but not consistently. It feels like it's spring out here. It's an early spring. Global warming is real. I don't know whether to be concerned or embrace it, because I'm kind of liking it right now. I know I should be concerned. My brain tells me to be concerned, but my senses are like, this is nice. You know what? The Midwest might become a new vacation destination, and everywhere else becomes inhospitable. I don't know.
You said that global warming is real with very, very conviction of certainty, or that.
But I don't know about the causes, though.
With a lot of,
it's real, but I don't know what causes it. I'm pretty sure I know. I have an idea.
A lot of conviction of its certainty. Yeah. Is it real? In my opinion, I mean, it seems like there's no way that you could continue putting carbon dioxide and other chemicals into the atmosphere for many, many years without it having some effect. Like, all chemicals have effects when they interact with each other. So,
indeed.
To what extent we're seeing it or how much can you pinpoint it, that is way above my pay grade or expertise.
And who to blame? Do we blame ourselves? Probably. Do we blame foreign nations, developing nations like China and India? Probably too. I'll just blame us all together collectively as the human race. How about that? And I'm also going to blame nature itself, because I'm sure that has something to do with it. There is some natural shift in temperature across the earth through Earth's history.
Yeah, there's cycles throughout time.
The sun as well. That's probably to blame. The share of blame, percentage of blame, beyond my pay grade, beyond my educational expertise. So I don't really know. And it's just a question of, how do we adapt or curtail our lifestyle and, our standard operating procedures as a human race by, or what do we do? I don't know. But, I'm not really sure. We can only just kind of continue living our lives. And I don't know how crazy do we want to get like Greta Thunberg aggressive about it and mandate like electric vehicles, even though never mind where that lithium comes from or how environmentally friendly the sourcing of batteries are. So just it's a convenient little thing we like to overlook. And just I guess we're going to forget nuclear power plants too. We've had this discussion before of how like nuclear is. It's a lot better than coal. That's for damn sure. Is it perfect? No. But and you look no further than France. You can have a look at that, how nuclear is done right. But I guess different strokes for different folks. So I don't think just going to full solar and wind is the answer. But I think maybe probably a combined approach, maybe a little heavy lean on nuclear for us here would be a little bit better in the long term. So coal's kind of going away anyways. Natural gas is pretty big. Coal's just kind of on a steady decline. But natural gas isn't terrible. I mean, but I think from what I've read that nuclear is a little bit. I mean, it's not so much the process of burning nuclear fuel. It's what you do with the waste, right? It's how do we safely store and manage nuclear waste or repurpose it or whatnot. Is the big question. So I think it's a good placeholder while other forms of green energy are better developed. We're not lucky here in the rest of the country like most of the country like they are in Norway, where I think I read somewhere they have most of their energy from like hydroelectric, because they have the fjords and they have the mountain streams running down through the mountains. So they just like, oh, let's just throw in a dam here, and it's like hydroelectric all day, baby. So a lot of it's
seems
like
the cleanest source of energy.
Oh yeah, totally clean
For
the most part. Yeah, it's like crystal clear energy, and then they think they're better than everyone else. But it's like, hey, come on, what are we gonna do? And in the middle of fucking I don't know, Texas, right? I guess a wind farm, or a solar farm.
Yeah.
Which looks terrible. But
solar is good in these areas that have summer-like conditions all year round.
Yeah.
Solar's not great in Chicago or London, probably, where it rains a lot and there's gray skies. But, I mean, what are we to do, Thomassen, other than fucking raise a toast to being alive, while we still are, and
for now.
friggin' enjoy a drink together. I got here Stella Artois 00, no alcohol beer, and what do you got over there?
I got a 12-pack of hipster beer, hipster IPA.
Is that literally what it's called?
No, it's Goose Island. The IPA. This is a variety pack. I'm drinking Neon Bear Hug. It's got a bear with sunglasses. How about
Damn,
that?
That's some trippy shit, bro.
Yeah, 10,000 volts of flavor. How about that? Wow.
Sounds like a high voltage shit right there.
I used to hate IPAs, but now I'm just kind of like, they're not bad. Like they tend to punch above their weight a little bit. They have a little bit more higher alcohol content. As long as they're not just jam full of hops where it tastes like bong water, like fucking gross. It's I like it as long as it doesn't blow your face off with hops. Doesn't bother me. So
well, you got to exercise caution with those IPAs. I feel like like in grade school they used to have that little saying, like a little dab will do you, like for when you're using a glue and all that shit. So little kids didn't glue themselves to stuff or glued our fingers together or something. But yeah, with the IPAs, like you kind of want to set like an alarm, it's like when to leave the brewery or something, because you have too many of those and boy oh boy, it could be trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of trouble, and we were discussing earlier the train derailment in
I was going to tell people how friggin' good our friggin' country fried steak breakfast was today. That's another thing we got to enjoy.
Oh, yes.
Delicious. This is what's powering us through the podcast.
What was that place called?
Willow Springs Family Diner, Willow Springs, Illinois.
Little plug.
Delicious food.
For local
Shout
business.
out to everybody over there at Willow Springs Family Diner. Sal's on the friggin' grill cooking there in the back. The shit was delicious. But now we got to look forward to a delicious dinner after this podcast. We got Steak Joseph, an Italian dish. Some kind of white wine and potatoes and steak and peppers and all this. But shifting right over then to the
big
unfortunate disaster in East Palestine, Ohio, where a train's derailed full of toxic chemicals.
Big oopsie. It's kind of unclear. I know just my cursory glance at the situation. You pull up a news article. It says the train left the rails and toppled over. So I don't know how a train leaves the rails. It didn't switch over the tracks properly, or some kind of link up wasn't set in place properly, where it just did a little whoop de whoop boop boop over the tracks, and then just started tumbling over like dominoes. I look at the videos, and the train is like, it's like slinky. It's like instead of just like falling over, boop, like this. Like the whole train is like scrunched, like kind of slinky to an extent. It
looks like it crashed.
Yeah, it looks like it straight up crashed as opposed to just like
derailment would be like
toppled over.
Toppled over on the side. It looks like it had to it crashed into something,
or maybe
it
the
had to come
front
to a
end, the
stop?
front portion of the train did topple over, then the rest just the momentum just carried into and
Yeah.
slinkied it, to where it would essentially crash.
That's one possible reasonable explanation.
I don't know, but that could make sense. And then it's let's train it pulling 150 cars, located about 50 miles out of Pittsburgh in East Palestine, Ohio. So that is a big oopsie. And it wasn't so much that a train crashed itself; it's that what it was carrying started to spill everywhere and started burning. What was that toxic chemical called? It was vinyl chloride, wasn't it? Vinyl chloride. Yeah, that's
which
nasty
apparently
stuff.
can have like reactions when it's mixed with oxygen or water or something like that, and can explode if it boils. Apparently.
Yeah. So it was burnt, and then they said the officials did like a controlled burn and tried to do a controlled burn.
Detonation.
Controlled
they
release.
Exploded the shit that was there.
I guess the idea being that burn it off into the air so it doesn't seep into the groundwater where most of your drinking water comes from. Was that the idea behind it?
I didn't hear that as a rationale. What I heard, and this is we're just discussing stuff we heard in the news. Yeah. And I heard a couple of podcasts about it recently. By recently, I mean today. I was listening to some of these this morning. But what I heard is that they were concerned that because there was a fire that resulted after a crash, and the shit was burning to a boiling point, which apparently is when the shit starts exploding or whatever. And they were concerned that it was just going to explode naturally, so they detonated it. I don't know. It seems like maybe in this case, it's hard to second guess people, but it just doesn't seem a good idea to do that in the first place. It's like, well, why don't you see how it plays out before you certainly, detonate it and see if it detonates itself? Like, was there air quotes controlled detonation of this stuff safer? Can they demonstrate that was safer than a natural explosion of this stuff? I don't know, man. These details are all unfolding, but one thing is for sure that we should note from the outset is, our hearts and our feelings go out to the people of East Palestine, Ohio. It's a pretty fucked up situation and very disturbing to everyday life. And I think they're being told they can stay there, but I know I wouldn't feel too comfortable as a resident to be staying there. But what else you got on the information there, brother?
Yeah, it was. They're saying that the air is safe and the water is safe to drink. But it's kind of funny. So, the village officials in this town says that the water was safe, and so did their emergency management agency. Well, simultaneously, their emergency management agency said that some of the substances associated with the derailment may have spilled into Sulphur Run, which is presumably a river or water source of some sort. So that's doesn't sound safe, but it's like it's safe to drink. Chemicals have spilled into the water source, though, but the water is still safe to drink until the chemicals get to your faucet. I hope that's not the case. Hopefully that's not like a water source.
On the surface, it sounds dangerous, yeah.
Yeah.
And I heard in another news article I was reading that they found 3,500 dead fish in waterways near
all
there.
Kinds of critters are dying around it. It's like fish, birds, dogs, cats, whatever. People are feeling sick. Lawsuits have already been filed for negligence, presumably.
You've seen that in the news that they've already been filed? Because
already been filed. So
let's try to get a timeline on this. This incident just occurred within the last 2 weeks. We're in February 2023.
Yeah.
Do you have an exact date there? Because what I heard on an article I was reading now before we started the podcast was that it took 2 weeks for anybody from the federal government to come and visit East Palestine, Ohio, to kind of even review the aftermath. So the people of of Ohio there are feeling neglected and maybe left for dead, right? There's people that are really pissed off and upset. I saw some footage of these town hall meetings that have been going on.
Yeah, it just says here in this article that multiple lawsuits have already been filed in connection with the disaster, claiming Norfolk Southern Railroad displayed negligence and carelessness in connection to the derailment. And the spokesperson for the plaintiffs saying that they don't believe that they've been getting the full information. So, that's just That's just what I'm getting here. So I don't know when they were filed, but presumably just recently. This article was published. Let me see. February 17th, so 2 days ago.
See, how crazy is that? Because
just within a week.
You don't even have all the facts yet, right?
Yeah.
They're going to have to do a giant friggin' investigation of all this and figure out what happened, why it happened.
I mean, well, it's kind of like res ipsa locator, maybe. Like, it's like, okay, this railroad is entirely under your control, Norfolk. An oopsie happened. No one else was fucking with it. This is entirely your bailiwick, bro. This is your lane, and if not for your negligence,
Yeah, and for listeners, the term res ipsa locator is a Latin term meaning the thing it speaks for itself, which is used in the law to denote that somebody must have been negligent because these types of things don't happen except for when there's negligence involved. The interesting part about this is that we have chemicals being shipped around the country in these big fucking containers that can be penetrated, that can leak, and there's no plan as to how to deal with a spill of them once they're off the train. Like, you would think that with good planning, they would have some kind of like disaster plan in place for when this kind of shit, it topples over and starts bursting in flames.
I mean, I think they do train for this stuff, like your emergency management agencies, your EPA. I just don't know. I mean, and maybe a controlled burn is part of their SOP for managing, a chemical spillage that's spilling into the fucking, soil. So, or preventing a larger explosion by doing a controlled detonation. I don't know.
If they did a controlled detonation, which is what they did here, it seems like they thought that was the best plan of action. Yeah. But I guess, it seems like at this point it remains to be seen, over time how this is going to affect people.
So I'm seeing also here that the Ohio EPA said there were more leak chemicals than just the vinyl chloride. There was ethylene glycol, monobutyl ether, ethyl acrylate, and isobutylene were in some of the cars. So all that sounds pretty explodey, like
it doesn't sound good.
This butylene glycol, it sounds like very saucy compounds, but I'm not a chemist. I don't know my chemistry for shit. So
none of us regular folks know what those things are, but kind of crazy to think that you have like this crazy train driven by Ozzy Osbourne just flying through the countryside there full of like all these fucking chemicals. Holy shit. Like, that's what's passing by you on those trains? Some fucking polyethylene, glycol, citrate, that shit you're not supposed to be putting in your water or drinking or anything.
All of it sounds bad to go in the groundwater, whatever, in the soil. Here's the thing, going further in this article, the EPA, the U.S. EPA, actually wagged their finger at Norfolk Southern Railroad for improper disposal. They're saying that it had failed to properly dispose of the contaminated soil after the derailment, and that 5 cars of vinyl chloride were intentionally breached, and that the chemical was diverted into an excavated trench before it was burned off. And that areas of contaminated soil and liquids were potentially covered and or filled while the rail line was reconstructed, including portions of the trench that was caused to burn the vinyl chloride. So they were a little bit, they're scolding them a little bit in their handling of the incident. So
did you just say that the tracks had already been rebuilt within like 2 weeks of this? It's like, can you imagine the power of capitalism in that regard? That like,
let's get the shit moving. Let's go, guys.
It's a shame that happened, but the show's got to move on.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, but.
Or we'd have more supply chain problems, probably.
In Norfolk Southern's defense, they announced that more than $1 million have been distributed directly to the families to cover costs related to the evacuation. So it's not like they're trying to be completely assholes about it. They're trying to at least do
that's
something
nice.
their way.
But I wonder how much it would cost to evacuate that many people. Because how many people are in East Ohio? That'd be interesting to find out. Let's see if we can.
It's not much. I think I saw like 4,000 odd people or something like that. It's a small town. So, yeah, so just for people who had to pack up and go, like, if I had to go and, stay at an Airbnb for a week before the shit was cleared up. So, some people had to, relocate temporarily, so.
Shit, man. I'd be relocating for a little while,
Interesting. And their homes have all kinds of shit on them, like, when they got back to their house, they had to let the house air out, and they had chemicals that like hydrochloric acid in the form of like a film that was left on the surface of their house. There was like chemical like rain on their fucking houses and shit.
That's what I was talking about with it mixing with air and water.
Yeah.
And apparently, I heard, and I don't know if this is true because this shit's all still developing, but people were coming back to their homes after having evacuated, finding their like dead pets and stuff and dead animals around. It's fucking crazy.
U.S. EPA says it's clear now, so threat from vinyl chloride fire no longer exists, apparently. So that's okay. The air is good now. It's probably only a problem if it burns, I guess. And once it ceases burning, it's not toxic to inhale. But I don't know, but it's like on your house and stuff you're touching routinely, like with your skin on. Can it like get into your system residually?
Maybe you might be able to absorb it through your skin, and
no idea.
Yeah, I don't know. Interesting shit. We'll try to find more about all this out and talk about it another day. But no, interesting stuff, man.
Yeah. Shit happens, but man, that's a big fuck up.
But then you got to start wondering too. In times like this, you start wondering: is the EPA credible? And if they are credible, or either way, are they correct? Even if they are credible, are they correct that, it's now safe to return home, you can breathe the air, you can drink the water, any contaminants that were in the air should now be dissipated. They haven't been spread around in the environment directly to the area and then the surrounding areas and stuff like that. I mean, I don't know. It's interesting. I don't know if I personally would not want to be going back there right away.
Yeah, and they were saying in terms of like talking about like resident safety and stuff. So I think the Emergency Management Agency or the EPA or whatever was saying that, there's concern for people for their drinking water and these substances that are spilled out on the ground, like penetrating through the drinking water. And they're saying that basically people with like private wells, you just have a well on your property, you should get those tested because that could be at risk if you're near the contamination site, the crash site. But the municipal wells of East Palestine, they're saying they're 56 feet below the surface, and they're covered by a solid steel casting that protects the water from contamination. So that is pretty fucking far down. It's down there as a ways plus, steel casing. So they're probably good if you're on like the municipal water. So you're probably good. It's just you have a private well. They're like, get that shit tested, just to be sure. But it's probably not. It's a pain in the ass, but probably not like a calamity level event. So,
yeah. Hopefully that is correct, man, for the people out there and the people in the surrounding states and all that shit where all that stuff was going up into the air and being blown around and, hopefully they're correct and these people don't end up with health problems later.
Yeah, I mean, if you're probably gonna be okay. Unless you're like right near the sign, you're sucking down the side of the accident, sucking down that burning, vinyl chloride. That's probably not good to breathe. I imagine that's probably very toxic to inhale.
No, apparently that's why firefighters wear, like, they have to go in with tanks and shit on their backs so they can breathe and not breathe in this kind of shit when they're fighting with these types of incidences.
Definitely. So yeah, that's a wrap on the train incident. Huge fuck up. I wonder, that's going to be a fun lawsuit.
Well, I guess one last note to mention is that it doesn't seem like the mainstream media is really picking up on this or talking about it too much. I saw it briefly, but they're, I guess, relying on what the government agencies are telling them that it's like not a big deal, or I don't know, they're not being inquisitive enough maybe if they're not questioning a little bit, just to kind of kick it around and see what other problems might result, because they said it was like 1 million pounds of vinyl chloride that was spilled. Yeah, that's or released as part of this incident because of the derailment. It's pretty fucking crazy. Now, what led to their derailment too?
It just hopped out like What the fuck?
Fucking guy going too fast driving there, or the tracks were defective? What happened
Or
there?
they weren't, or like they weren't. Maybe I don't know. Like the tracks weren't switched up properly, so that the train was going too fast for the track switch up, and it hopped the tracks. It's like some track switch ups, like it's like, you're supposed to be taking it instead of. Like if you're going a certain speed and you go straight, you can go pretty fast, right? But then if you do a track switch up, saying over another track, that's a sharper angle you got to travel on. So if you're going at too high a speed, you'll hop the tracks on.
Yeah.
It won't be able to track. The wheels won't stay on the rails, and it'll come off if it's got too much momentum going on, too sharp a corner. So I don't know if that's what happened. I have no idea. I'm not seeing really any details as to what exactly happened. So. That's a big oopsie.
I believe I read, and I'm going to look this up now. National Cancer Institute. Vinyl chloride exposure is associated with an increased risk of rare cancer, including liver cancer, primary liver cancer, brain and lung cancers,
Great.
lymphoma, and leukemia.
Wonderful.
So, the residents of East Palestine, Ohio, have been told that things are safe there for them, but like having a known carcinogen in that air and the atmosphere around them, that's like pretty fucking crazy,
Yeah.
Like it doesn't seem safe at all. But
Nope, definitely not. So
hopefully they're good over there.
I just wonder if that's only from like inhaling it. I don't know how much exposure and how much you have to inhale. How many, or if it's just, touching it superficially, like when it has that residue that like on their home. I have no idea. So
Probably like in small amounts over time, or just like one large ingestion would probably what would it be, but.
fucking sucks, man. Chemicals are scary.
Yeah, dude. The funny thing is, they're probably not far from us either. We're in Chicago, Illinois, which is the like rail hub capital of America. Almost everything flows through here at some point if it's on rail traffic. Like to get to the West Coast, it stops here. To get to the East Coast, it stops here. To come
The train
south,
probably came through here before it.
it might have. Heading east out to Ohio or something.
Maybe.
Like all these fucking chemicals. It just happened to the poor folks over there in, East Palestine, Ohio, but it could have been here too, or any number of these places.
Yeah, that rail yard over there is massive. Yeah.
The rail yard over,
It's right over there.
here in
Yeah.
Chicago / Bedford Park.
Yeah.
Right outside the city here.
It's massive.
Fucking massive, and it's one of several that are around here. And the railroads are super powerful. So what they tell you here in Illinois, if you're stopped by a train for longer than like 5 or 10 minutes, and I think maybe this is even more specific to Chicago, you can call the police. And you tell them, I've been delayed for longer than 10 minutes. It's causing basically like kind of like an emergency backup here. They will call, BNSF, Burlington Northern Santa Fe. They'll call them up and be like, dude, you guys need to get these fucking train moving. These people have been waiting there longer than 10 minutes. I've literally seen ambulances stuck waiting for a train.
That's
like, you better hope that you're not in bad trauma or something in the back of an ambulance while you're stuck by a train. Some of these neighborhoods where we're at are like land blocked and locked by trains at multiple points.
And there's no underpasses. It's like, everything was built before they thought it was going to have this level of traffic.
We don't give a fuck about people and their movement. You see, we're going to put the train right here.
It's going right down on the
this side and this side.
Yeah, fucking wait.
Yeah, you got to wait for the train to come through. We're talking big business
That's
here.
business, yeah. It's America. America runs on business. America runs on railways, yeah.
And you know what they get for fucking blocking that train off? A $500 fine. They wipe their ass with it.
Yeah, they do.
They don't give a fuck. It's like they just probably have an auto payment debit account where it comes out like automatically. Don't even think about it.
Yeah, they have a designated account. Like they have that built into their budget, basically, like to pay out those fines. I'm sure.
Oh, dude, absolutely.
Yeah.
$500 in shit, man. Like, I wonder what the fucking profit or amount would be from just one train shipment of like moving shit around the country for people. Like,
depends what it's shipping, I guess, but. Maybe just shipping
I would imagine it's a
gasoline
lucrative business, right?
It's got to be pretty
We're going to
decent.
take your giant ass shit, including toxic chemicals, and transfer them transport them around America to get them to where you need to go.
I will say this, although this is a big fuck up, this toxic chemical spill in Ohio, it's a rare fuck up. I still think it's probably the safest way to transport these toxic chemicals. Like, can you imagine, like, think about how many car accidents you see, with some tractor trailer trucks on the highway and stuff. Whether it's just like, oh, the guy falls asleep, you drift into another oncoming lane, or you take a corner too fast, you're all of a sudden, like, or you're just bad weather, there's a massive 50-car pileup. Imagine if that shit was like, mixed in. You had some of that vinyl chloride in a fucking tractor trailer with, like, 30 other, civilian cars just jammed up into it, like, all exploding at once. Like, it's bad. So, railway's still probably the move for that. I hear we move, I don't know if this is true or not, but I hear we move some of our nukes on rail.
I would like to think that those trains are very heavily guarded.
Yeah, I don't know if that's just an urban legend or not.
I mean, how else would they really move them? Because some of those nukes
Tractor
are so
trailer
fucking...
trucks, but that's even a little, yeah.
Yeah, because I imagine they're more like compact weapons now, but, I mean, some of them are very, very large.
At least, well, yeah, I mean, just the warheads, though, you can fit in a tractor trailer truck, I'm sure. They're not that huge. So, but the full missile itself, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I tend to agree with what you're saying as far as, transporting toxic chemicals. The only other thing you can really do to, like, keep things more safe is try to eliminate the transportation out of it by locating your manufacturing facilities close to where they actually need those chemicals to use in the manufacturing process. But that's fucking crazy amount of coordination that human beings, it's like kind of beyond them. Like, look, we make it here, you need it down there in Florida, fine, we'll send it down there, but it's going to go by train.
Sure, and things like this, what did they say vinyl chloride was used in making of plastics?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, it's like everyone needs plastics everywhere, so, what are they going to build one of these in every county, manufacturing plant?
It's funny because before there were plastics, it just shit was made out of stuff. But then they find this, like, hey, this is really cheap, and we can, like, mass produce it, and fucking everything you have is going to have some plastic, right?
Yeah, it's the move. So what if it's a little noxious, getting the chemicals together? It'll be fine. Just transport them on the railway. For the most part, it's fine. But this, I don't know whether there's a human error or mechanical failure or whatnot, but yeah, it happens sometimes, unfortunately. I didn't see that anyone died from it, I don't think. Just there's some people who were sick from inhaling the smoke, I think, but died yet. Who knows? A few years down the line, Lord knows what kind of complications might come about health-wise for these folks that have been exposed to it. So
our thoughts and prayers go out to them, and we hope that we don't wish this on anybody, and very sad situation to happen there, and we'll keep our finger on the pulse of it and see what happens over time. Hopefully these folks are all right, but it's very scary stuff no matter what.
Very.
So what else, brother?
What do we have on our plate? Oh yes, we touched on it briefly in the last podcast we did together with our friend, and we talked about the balloons, those shifty, dirty Chinese balloons, spy balloons. At least balloon singular, we were pretty sure it was a spy balloon. She got shot down over the coast of South Carolina after it had flown across the continent for the better part of a week. And then they're like, it's over the open ocean. Let's take it out,
That begs the question of what we knew and when. Like, did they know from the point that it was over the United States and they waited till it completed its mission?
I know, yeah. It's kind of funny because, I mean, if you've ever, been in an airplane and you've seen just how fucking remote some areas of the United States are, like, especially, I don't know where did this thing come through it was like in Alaska, off the coast in Canada, then like in Montana or some shit, or Wyoming, I forget where it was. But it was in some pretty remote areas of the country, and if their argument is, we're afraid it's going to fall on somebody, it's like, if we shoot it down, it's like, dude, Montana, like 300 people live in Montana, right? I mean, you'd have to, you'd be, even if you had a laser guided missile, it'd be hard to hit somebody in Montana, there's almost no one there. So it's the same with much of like the rural, west of America, like in the mountains and stuff. There's nobody up in the freaking mountains, They shoot it down over the mountains. Jesus, what is this bullshit excuse? And they're, we'll shoot over the water. You know what there is in the water? Boats. I don't if anyone has ever been to the East Coast, specifically the Carolinas, you look out and across the horizon, all these like fishing boats, transport boats, like there's plenty of boats out in the ocean. It's like, dude, okay, yeah, it could have just as well fallen on a fucking boat, much less fallen on a hiker, out in the mountains of Montana or wherever the hell it was. It's like, to me, it's kind of a bullshit argument. It's like, oh, we're just gonna wait for this thing to get out over open ocean and shoot it down. We don't want to have it to fall anyone, in some remote area. It's like, dude, the mountains are probably more remote than the ocean, honestly, off the coast at least. So
yeah, hopefully these fuckers tell us what they actually know about it too, because like maybe they shot it down in hopes that they'd be able to retrieve some of the information that was about it or that it was gathering.
I think they did. They did recover some
so they
parts of the craft.
Yeah, they didn't take it down in a way that would completely destroy it and make it useless.
Well, they shot it with a missile, a Sidewinder missile. So, but I think they did that because I saw one video about it. They're saying, well, why didn't they just use the F-22 Raptors, gun, their freaking machine gun that's aircraft mounted air-to-air machine gun. And it's like, well, they tried that before, and with the it's not like a normal like balloon that you blow up and you pop. Like, it can still float even with holes in it, so you have to like dump like 1,000 rounds in it, and then it like will slowly descend or whatever. I depend, like the way those balloons are made, with the gas they use or whatever. I'm not sure the physics behind it, but it's not as simple as just popping it with like a pen and it goes. It's like it will float even with holes in it. So
it can be losing, and I wonder if it's like it self produces more hydrogen or whatever, or helium, whatever they use,
whatever gas they use to keep it floating,
to get it around the world.
Yeah. So you really have to just dump, like the whole fucking the whole freaking mag of ammo into this thing, and it's like then wild. And then it just then it'll descend who knows where slowly, but I almost feel like that would be better if you want it more intact as opposed to blowing it up with a missile. And it's like, come on,
I want the black box off of that thing. You know what I mean? Like whatever the flight recorder is for that fucking balloon.
I would like take a couple runs at it. Like see what the fuck happens. I would like escalation of force, right? It would be. I get it. Maybe they changed their doctrine in terms of taking out balloons. They're just like, we're not going to waste time and 1,000, 1,500 rounds of ammo peppering this thing, and we'll just blow it up with a missile. Also, because America, we like to blow shit up, as opposed to just
it's more. Maybe it's more of a statement.
Yeah, it is more of a statement. Like, fuck your balloon.
I kind of like it though, because like perception and image wise, like, can you imagine the F-22s or whatever, that's what you said they would use, or that's what they did use, F-22?
Yeah.
Can you imagine those things? Fucking China with their PR propaganda claims saying, like,
weak American fighter
can't even take down the balloon. Can't even take down a balloon and shit. It's like, no. We're gonna go on with what you call a Sidewinder missile. Bite that motherfucker like a snake.
Yeah. Pop goes the weasel, baby. Yeah, it's America. We blow shit up. We just should have blown it up over the mountains of Montana. We could have probably.
Yeah, like, I think the news headlines read better when it says America immediately takes down fucking Chinese balloon flying over.
It went
its
like
airspace.
2 kilometers into Montana's airspace, then it was immediately blown up by a fucking F-22 Raptor. It's like, okay, step to us. Meanwhile, we look like cucks when we let this thing fly over the complete
it was nice
mission,
to watch you
send
with
all the
my
data
wife.
back. Probably
now I'm gonna take you out
because it's probably live transferring data back to a control hub in Beijing or whatever. So they have all the data. They got all our infrastructure data, the most updated infrastructure data that they couldn't see with their satellites. So the mission is complete. So it's a win for them, and then it's on paper win for us. The F-22 Raptor gets its first air-to-air kill. Like, because it has no air-to-air kills because it's so new. But now the Raptor is 1-0 in air-to-air combat, even though a balloon isn't exactly much of an opponent. But
it looked pretty big on TV. Yeah. I wonder how big, like spherically, how wide that fucking thing was. How big?
I don't know. It was probably pretty fat.
It looked maybe smaller than a hot air balloon, or maybe about the same size. It was a big dude. It looked like a small moon floating through the sky.
Let me see here. It looked pretty fat. Oh yeah, it's a thick boy. Yeah, it's just this. It looks basically like a hot air balloon level. I mean, that's what it basically is, with just some sensors on the bottom. but I don't have a frame of reference for just, the diameter of the thing. Because it's so high. I think this thing was saying it was like at 60,000 feet or something.
Yeah.
Per time. Yeah, wow. It's this big ass balloon with like some seemingly like square reflective panels on the base that are probably the optics for it. Yeah, interesting. But yeah, like I just don't buy it that it's just like, oh, it was unsafe to shoot this thing down anywhere over America. I'm like, dude, take a plane over America and see how fucking remote it is. It like so much. But you know what? I think they also wanted to kind of retrieve it too. Like it would be kind of hard to retrieve this on top of a 10,000 foot mountain
because you got to go climb up there.
Yeah, and how do you get it down? It's either just drive a boat up to it and deploy a dive team or something. But then it could presumably sink to unknown depths in the ocean too. That's also not exactly easy. And it's like good luck finding it at the But they apparently recovered parts of it, so they were successful. So maybe that's what it was. They're more concerned about the recovery, and they figured it was easier in the water than it would be on top of a mountain.
Yeah, I think the logistics probably would be easier.
Or if it was falling, maybe it would be more intact in hitting the water. But even at that altitude, if you're hitting the water,
it's like concrete anyway. The only thing is, it looked like it made a slow descent. Like at least the pieces of it kind of came down slowly. It wasn't like some rapid free fall.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's interesting, but I think in the future we should just pop these bad boys right away. Like as soon as they're in a remote area, pop it.
I love how you said in the future because we know that it's probably going to keep on happening.
Yeah, because China feels big now. Yeah, they're like, oh, we can fly across a balloon across the entire continental United States, and these pussies aren't going to do shit about it. At least like, these guys are cucks. Like that's how we look like. Well, they'll do it after all, and as a little like little poke in the eye after. Fuck your balloon afterwards, but we're too pussy to shoot it down right away. They're probably just laughing at us. They laugh at us a lot, I think.
Well,
as they should, because we're pathetic in how we deal with them. So
it's and hopefully that changes because of podcasts.
It needs to change.
But in any event, it probably has gone on before. It's going on now. Apparently, this is not the only one that has been cited. There's others like it out there. What are they doing with this shit is the interesting question. You know what I mean? Is it innocuous? I don't give a shit if they're gathering weather data or something. Like, do it somewhere else, not over the continental United States. Yeah. We can't trust you as far as we throw you.
And there's apparently a couple other UFOs, unidentified flying objects, were shot down by NORCOM too. So there are other objects. So when they saw the Chinese spy balloon, they were like, NORCOM Northern Command was like, oh shit, we can't see this on radar or whatever. We got to do like I guess an aerial reconnaissance search for any other similar objects, in other parts in our, area. And so they shot down two other objects that were not captured on radar that were seen by, planes.
Not captured on radar. What does something, like, what qualities does it have to be captured by radar? Is it heat? What is it?
I think a lot of radar is heat, and it's also just the shape of the object, the size of the object, too. The smaller object it is, it's harder to capture on radar. And also the composition of the object, like...
the altitude?
Altitude, too. If it's too low, you're not going to see it on a radar. But I don't know about if it's too high. I'm not sure how high up radar goes.
Let's look up...
Yeah.
Like, what...
But, the reason, stealth aircraft look kind of funky, like they have all these weird angles and stuff, is because so there's multiple things. They're coated in radar absorbent material. They're coated in a special material that doesn't reflect back radar signals. And they're also built, the components of them are built at certain angles, at particular angles that do not reflect back the radar signal. Things with right angles reflect back radar signature. The right angle it's just how the radar wave behaves. Basically, it will reflect back the radar wave more distinctly. But that's why stealth aircraft have a strange composition and shape and size to how their components look, because they're built at different angles to deflect away radar. So, I imagine maybe certain balloons are constructed in a similar manner. And if it's just a balloon itself, maybe the thin nature of the balloon is the radar doesn't reflect off of it as well. I'm not sure, as a solid metal aircraft, so I think it has to do with like the composition of the balloon. Maybe it's harder to detect on radar. So
Interesting.
that would be my guess. I could be wrong. I'm just a signal guy, so what the fuck do I know? Yeah.
More than a lot of people. Your analysis is pretty good.
There's gonna be some fucking like nerd on here and be like, that's not how it works. I'm like, I don't fucking know. I'm not claiming to be an expert. As it's just my 2 cents as I drink an IPA. So yeah. Yeah.
What else, brother? Well, you got? Is there more on that?
Let's see here. Well, they don't even know what the fuck those other 2 things were. They say they were what were they? They were like private things. Like they weren't associated with they don't think they were military vessels. They're like private or research balloons or whatever, and they just go around shooting every fucking balloon. There's some poor bastard up there in a like rent a hot air balloon tour. He's up there with the girlfriend or whatever. Hey baby, let's do a selfie. There's a fucking sidewinder in the background. The last picture they took with a fucking sidewinder screaming towards them. Like, all balloons must go. They're like,
yeah, that would be wild. But I mean, I'm guessing there's got to be some regulations for hot air balloons where they can fly. They have to be licensed or something. Probably they have to alert government authorities in the area or something or whatever when they're doing these flights.
And they probably wouldn't be shooting down those low altitude tourist balloons. They're pretty fucking huge. You know, and obvious.
A hot air balloon, it only goes like 500 feet above the surface or something.
Oh, higher than that. That's thousands of feet. Yeah.
I wouldn't want to be up that high.
I've seen them up, a few thousand feet easily.
No shit.
Yeah.
Fuck.
But I don't like those because you can't control them that well. You just kind of have to ride the wind current. You can control your elevation, but
yeah, how do you get back to your original destination and get out of it?
I don't even know. It's a mystery to me. I haven't really researched it.
Is there a way to turn them?
I guess you got to plan, like release at one point, and then try to plan based on prevailing wind currents where your land point is, because you plan out where it's going to carry you. I need to have more control. I need fucking like ailerons and shit. Right.
Yeah. Well, like, what do you have an Uber waiting to pick you up at the end, and like you pack up your hot air balloon and put it away? Like, how does that work?
I guess you have like a point A and a point B that's like staked out already that you kind of fly to. I don't know, but yeah, it just seems. And then what if you run out you get into bad winds or something? You run out of fuel to keep stoking the flame. It's like, and then you're entirely at the mercy of the elements. Yeah. Fuck.
Yeah. No seatbelts, you're fucked, man. You're gonna ride around in a basket tied to a giant balloon, like a big garbage bag.
It seems like a terrible idea. Like,
it does.
Absolutely terrible idea.
It does. They romanticize it in the movies and shit, but
it's terrifying to me.
There's some things that are like likely safe or safe.
Yeah.
But I ain't gonna fuck with them.
No, and it's like, oh, you wanna get up in the air? Get in a fucking plane. Oh, what are you doing, guy? Get in a fucking plane. I'd rather be in a helicopter versus a hot air balloon. And helicopters can be sketch as fuck. Like, I've ridden in helicopters, and it's very cool, but at the same time, you're like, dude, if something goes wrong, I mean, it just kind of has like auto rotate and like slows your descent, but you're still crashing. Like, there's no really much controlling it. Once it's shot, you're going down, and you just better hope you're not hitting anything that's too bad, or you're not hitting or like landing hard. But man, dude, yikes.
Yeah, I didn't even really like flying, but it's just one of those things I do to get to places that are like far away. But I just don't travel that much outside of the Midwest. Like, I think I'm gonna start going down to Texas more a little bit, just because Joe Rogan and like all the big comedians went down there, and he's opening comedy clubs. It'd be really cool to go watch some like the best comedians in the world do stand up down there.
He's trying to make Austin into, the new the new LA of entertainment, but
That
and it kind of already is, from what I understand. It's sort of, but
sounds great to me.
it also sounds
Texas
like kind
is
of a
fucking
cesspool.
awesome.
Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe it'd probably be fun to visit. I bet it's a blast to visit.
It
but
is.
not
Dude,
great
the
to
food's
live.
good there.
Yeah.
People were really cool when I went, and I'm gonna go there again, man.
I like a lot of things Texas has going for it, and everyone who's moved there loves it. Like my friend, she moved to San Antonio. Absolutely, I would kind of want to go to San Antonio.
San Antonio's a very nice city. It's my favorite
see
one.
the
in
river
Texas.
walk, and I want to see the Alamo and all that jazz.
Alamo was really cool too.
I feel like I need to see that. But yeah, like everyone who's moved to Texas like loves it, man. Or who's moved from it. My other friend, a friend at my unit, who she used to live down in Texas, when she was stationed there, loves it, misses it. So I definitely haven't done enough Texas, but it's like I'm down in Arizona so much. It's like Texas adjacent, one state remote. It's like it's still the Southwest. So I get why people. So I love Arizona. Like I love Southern Arizona, Tucson, the Sonora, all that. Big time. It's Arizona, at least in the Sonora, and probably most of the states. It's a prettier state than Texas. It just is. Like Texas is kind of a desolate state.
It's a big open landmass.
Yeah.
Between its major cities.
It's desolate.
That's real
kind
man's
of bleak
land out there. Ooh.
No man's land. Yeah. But Arizona's like, it's like pretty, like aesthetically pretty.
Yeah.
Because you got all kinds of mountains and like cool flora and fauna. The Grand Canyon. It's just a prettier state. It is. I don't know if it's a better state to live in, like financially, economically. It's probably close. Not a high tax state either. But I do like the Southwest a lot, and I might eventually end up there. Like, if I have a say in it, I might eventually in the future, sometime far in the future, if I'm able to, probably end up there. Like
retire there, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see how things play out, but I really like it a lot. So if I like Arizona that much, I get why people like Texas that much.
It's funny because my dad always kind of talked about retiring to the Northwoods of Wisconsin. And I've even kind of considered it myself. It's kind of weird to think about retiring to a place that's even colder than where you live right now.
I know.
Which,
yeah.
It's already really cold in Chicago when you get cold here.
But with this global warming, though, I mean, maybe not so much in the future. Like, this might be the place to be. I don't know.
I mean,
at least
the winter was a warm one this year. Didn't really have to worry too much. We had like one super Arctic tundra that swept through for like 24 hours, and after that was over, I've been like where I didn't even have to really wear my jacket. I could just wear a hoodie a lot of the time. But I bundle up more than most people do. Like, my wife wears like thin jackets and more like stuff that's more of like a glorified sweater, like a hybrid sweater jacket. I'm like, that is not enough for me.
Yeah.
But to each their own, I guess. I chill easily. But maybe what I do is like be a snowbird, so I'm in a warmer place when the real bad winter hits, and then in the nice place when the summer hits, which is what a lot of people do in colder areas.
Wisconsin's great in the summer, man. I truly believe there is no better place in the continental United States than Wisconsin in the summer. Minnesota, Michigan, like the Midwest in general, it's better than anywhere else in the summer, 100%. It's like it's a milder summer, like it's still warm, but it's not like like Florida where you sweat all the liquid out of your body like continuously and basically like sweat yourself to death and like horrendous humidity. Texas too, like areas in Texas like towards the Gulf and stuff, like they're humid as fuck.
Well, probably like Louisiana too.
Yeah, like Gulf area humid as fuck, and which to me is worse than like even summer. I've been in Arizona in the summer, like late July, like early August and shit, and it's not as bad as like Georgia, in the summer, like because the humidity, get that dry heat is not as bad. Even though the temperature is hotter, because it's dry, you have no humidity. It's more tolerable because it's not just this like sweltering, like water sapping, sweat inducing. It's like you're a fucking rag and it's just like extracting all the moisture from your body. Yeah. But like, yeah, man, Midwest summer, the best in America, 100%. So,
damn,
Yeah, there's no better. Like, especially like when you're on a lake or whatever, you're on like a boat in the summer. Dude, there's no better place to be in the summer. Continental U.S. hands down.
Fucking A. What else you got over there, brother? Before we get into the fictional story.
Well, I don't know, man. We have. Let me see. That's pretty much. Well, we maybe get into another podcast with the whole thing about the Illinois assault weapons ban and all
That's
that.
an ongoing developing story. We'll have to see what happens with that.
Yeah, with preliminary injunctions and motions to stay and all this jazz. So, more to follow on that, but I just in principle, like, I don't know why legislatures keep passing this stuff like it's gonna do anything. I mean, when you think about like the gun crime we have in Chicago, like, what percentage of it is caused by like AR-15s? Like, people really aren't rolling up on people in the streets with AR-15s and dumping them. They're using handguns. Like, it's. I just don't know what pragmatic effect it has in terms of reduction in crime. Like, it's supposedly touted, we got to get these dangerous weapons on our street. I mean, they're only dangerous when they're used as such, and they're not really being used as such in this city. In this city, this city's gun crime problem is handguns. So, I don't know what it does other than like a virtue signal or a control thing, or just a ideological, hard line that folks have, that our elected representatives have. But I just don't think it has any pragmatic value in terms of safety. It's de minimis to me.
Yeah, we saw in various mass shootings, like the Virginia Tech one, the guy had just 2 handguns and took out. It was almost the most. I mean, at the time, it may have been the most.
At the time, it was, I think, the highest,
the largest death
kill count
in a mass shooting.
Yeah,
it was done with 2 handguns. And when people want to be safe, they call in people who have AR-15s, right? SWAT teams.
Yep.
Police. Some police keep these in the back of their squads, and the military uses these things. And, well, why do you need that weapon? Well, the same reason the fucking police need them, right?
Yeah. Or I'm dealing with the same criminals the police are dealing with, and they have AR-15s. Yeah. Why the fuck can't I? Like, you think a criminal's like, you know what? I believe in equal application of force. I'm seeking to rob you at gunpoint. I will only use what guns you are allowed to use. They don't fucking give a shit. Run up on you with a fucking chopper. Like, a chopper to your ass, or a fucking MAC-10, Tech-9, whatever the fuck. Mostly use handguns, but it's like, hey, Dirty Boy don't give a fuck about any of that. They're not going to do an equal application of force to their victims. But if they do, it's hard. An AR-15 isn't easily concealable or portable unless you're in some weird ass trench coat or something like that, right? So mostly dirty boys want to be able to conceal a weapon, so they use a handgun. But SWAT doesn't give a fuck. Like, what do the cops do, right? Oh, the dirty boys got a fucking Glock. What do they not take out the AR-15 to deal with them if they're fucking getting shot at? No, they're gonna fucking take the AR-15 out of the back of the fucking Explorer and pop his ass off from like 75 meters away. Like, if they're in a gunfight, what are they gonna, like, fucking stroll up to this guy with their sidearm when they have an AR-15 available? Are you fucking kidding me? Like, but you want me, the citizen, to be at that, to be on the fucking playing field with the dirty boy, so so I don't have that advantage. Like, you're taking away an advantage against a law-abiding person, the guy who's minding his own business, and you're giving the dirty boy a leg up on you, as opposed to like having a deterrent against somebody who's going to do dirt on you with an AR. So.
And also to ban what they call assault weapons or whatever.
And they can't even. You ask one of these Democratic legislators what the fucking assault weapon even is. They're like, it's a weapon of war. I'm like, no, it's not. Our weapons in the military are select fire weapons. Those are illegal in common usage everywhere. They're not anywhere in America. They're fucking illegal unless you have a special like federal firearms license for automatic weapons, basically. So you cannot purchase, as a normal person in America, you cannot purchase a select fire weapon that's fully auto, 3-round burst, that's selective fire. So usually selective fire weapon, like, your modern M16, like, will just either have, depending on the model of like M16, M4, it'll have either semi-auto mode where one trigger pull, one shot, 3-round burst, one trigger pull, 3 shots, or like the old school like Vietnam era weapons will just have fully automatic. Your Vietnam era M16s will be full auto, so.
Can you switch between those modes?
Yeah, you can switch between the modes. I think like our M16s that we would use at like my old unit, they're only like they were just like semi-auto and selective fire. There's 3-round burst. So
yeah,
and that's an assault weapon. When you have selective fire, automatic fire, or a 3-round burst, that's an assault weapon. But just a semi-automatic rifle is not an assault weapon. By like mil-spec AK, like a Russian mil-spec AK Chinese, or the Chinese variant that's either, like that has fully automatic fire. It's an assault rifle because it has fully automatic fire. But the civilian variant was semi-automatic fire is not an assault weapon. It's a long rifle, semi-automatic long rifle. So, but a lot of elected representatives don't understand that concept. They don't even know what the fuck they're legislating. So
they're probably just going based on looks, but
yeah, because it looks like it. Yeah,
to ban assault weapons doesn't seem to be in keeping with the spirit of the Second Amendment. So the Second Amendment says a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
It's pretty clear.
They said a well-regulated militia, right? So
they meant trained in the day. That meant trained and drilled. Like people say, oh, it's supposed to be well regulated, as in terms of restrictions or laws or whatever. That was not the parlance of the day. And in this camp, I'm more in the Scalia camp, and and more in the originalist camp, as opposed to, the living Constitution camp that Ginsburg was in. But I think that's really important. Like, it's like, dude, this was written in the 1700s. Like, it was written in that kind of like old English verbiage, and it's like, to really understand what it means we have to interpret it with the parlance of the day. Like, because the parlance of now didn't exist then, so it's not fucking applicable like to the words. It's, if you try to superimpose our modern parlance and over the verbiage of the Constitution, it's not what it's saying. It's bastardizing it somewhat. So,
yeah, I mean, I think the point, like, what I feel or what I believe is that the Second Amendment was drafted as protection against all invaders, foreign or domestic. Yeah. Like, if the government turns totalitarian and the people need to, revolt, that's why it's necessary for the people to have the right to keep and bear arms.
Very much so.
Or if we need to take up our arms against a foreign invader, start coming to our shores, well, we're ready for that too.
Very much so. It was written by people who had just fought and won a revolution. Like, that was put there blatantly and intentionally to, like, secure the right that they had. They had access to firearms. Yeah. The musket was
because they were considered criminals and traitors when they did it the first time. But now we're saying you have a right to do this.
The musket was the assault weapon of the day. That's what the British Redcoats had. That's what the American revolutionaries fought the British Redcoats with, a fucking musket. And they're like, oh, the Constitution was written about muskets. They're like, dude, that was the standard infantry rifle. That was the assault weapon of the day that they used on the battlefield. That was a weapon of war. Literally, weapons of war, at least for the standard infantryman rifle, that was inculcated into American jurisprudence from day one, with the Second Amendment, from the inception of the Second Amendment.
It doesn't make a distinction of what the weapon is at the time. It just says you have a right to do it.
Yeah, and they knew that technology would change
over time. They want you to be able to keep up with it, probably, right?
Yeah,
right.
It's supposed to be commensurate with the standard infantry weapon. It's like, and I love the Democratic politicians making arguments like, oh, you can never win. The American government's got nukes and planes and blah blah blah. Like, we don't. You couldn't win with guns anyways. Like no, blah blah blah. Like it's
well,
like
they also say should you have the right to have like a nuclear weapon or some kind of missiles too. It's like
beyond that. No,
what?
no. What my point is this, in that it doesn't matter whether or not like, you know, they're basically the Democratic politicians make the argument that it doesn't matter what kind of guns you have. The federal government has planes, nukes, ballistic missiles, etc. or whatever. I'm like, you know who didn't have planes, nukes, ballistic missiles? The Taliban. Guess who runs Afghanistan right now? The Taliban. So clearly, you don't need nukes, planes, and ballistic missiles and artillery to take on the United States government. They've proven that. You just need, I guess, small arms and fucking IEDs. So like that's all. And after 20 years of war, with all our planes and all our technology, we don't run Afghanistan. The Taliban does. We left. So that's a bullshit argument because it's been disproven by the Afghans. So yeah, that is literally all we need to take on the United States government is small arms and a lot of fucking people. So which we have. So their argument being like, oh, it doesn't matter what guns you have or don't have, the government will win anyways, you know, if it wants to take over.
Yeah,
it's
they're going to nuke all their own cities so nobody can live there. It seems
right,
like self-destructive.
Sure.
I don't think that's the best plan.
I don't think so. It's a
bogus
bogus
major
argument.
Nuclear war to this date.
It's a bogus argument. So, but I just think, I don't know, I think it's just either it's about, I don't know, some dogmatic ideology or just control that, you know, these, I don't know, essentially these gun grabbers or gun control advocates have. It's like
a lot of gun grabbers out there trying to grab your gun, your junk, all your shit.
Yeah, and I understand the emotional appeal, especially after the school shootings, which is a whole nother topic we can talk on. I think that goes to a lot of issues, psychology issues with the modern social landscape and how our culture has changed over time. Because the access to guns hasn't changed over time, but our culture has, our society has. And I remember my grandfather would tell me stories. He would carry the fucking pump action 12 gauge to school in fucking rural Virginia. He'd hunt pheasants on his way to school with the fucking 12 gauge when he was like 12 years old. Like, yeah, go on, Roy. Yeah, go to school, take the 12 gauge with you. You know, pick up any birds, bring them home for supper. Real talk. You just give a fucking 12 gauge to a kid because they grew up using that shit. So, fucking park it on a tree outside the schoolhouse, go to school. He didn't fucking bring it in and shoot up a bunch of fucking kids in his class because he had access to a 12 gauge shotgun. They didn't do that back then. Because they had more of a cohesive community culture. Everybody was more included. It was more of, we had communities back then. And I'm not saying there wasn't
pollution of
kids weren't on
social media and all
their brains weren't influenced by social media, and I don't know, some people say it's a medication they got kids on. I don't fucking know what the answers. I don't have the answers, but I do know that despite even children having access to firearms, readily access to firearms, there weren't mass shootings back then like there were like you know in the 20s and 30s like there were now. So
yeah, it's really more of a modern invention. If there was mass shootings back then, it was usually like gangland shit where a bunch of gang members were taken out or something.
And it's not. So when people say it's the prevalence of guns that's causing, the guns are there because there's access to guns. That's the culprit. Is, you know, it's human nature that there's going to be mass shootings because there's so much readily access to guns by everyone in America. It's like, dude, there's been unlimited access to guns for citizens in America almost throughout our entire history, but yet there haven't been mass shootings at this frequency only until recently. So that tells me that it's not the prevalence or access to guns. It's a shift in the culture and the general psychology of America. That's the problem. And it's just, if we don't understand that, then we're treating, you know, the symptoms, not the causes. So at least that's my take on it.
Before we shift over to the fictional stories or anything that you want to add?
No, I think I am ready for this entirely fictional story.